making a presentation, separation of powers, and political accountability, meeting by person Pavilion in 1997. Okay, yes. It is a general belief that elections is the way voters can control how public officials handle power. Contrary to that, there are other ways you could do that, and that's through separation of powers and checks and balance. This paper actually aims at ensuring accountability through separation of powers and checks and balance. And through this paper, we'll be making use of modern economic theories. It's important to note also that this paper is a theoretical one, and we're making use of a principal agent theory. In this situation, the principal is regarded as the voters. I could say we all here are voters. The agent, rather, is the public office holder. Now I start with the presidential system. But before I proceed, I would like to state that while I'm making the presentations per section, some of the results are highlighted in blue just for emphasis. So as I was saying, in the presidential system of government, we have an executive who is supposed to be the one heading the system in the country or in any government, for instance. Now in the mode of the utility of holding office is indigenized, assuming that the agent has the opportunity of diverting public resource. The ideology is that there has to be a payoff for the executive to handle power. Now we want to control the rent that the executive has such that they do not overexploit power they have. The result here is only the principal now the model, that's the expected utilities. Voters jointly maximize the utility. This is supposed to be consumption, voters' public good consumption. I mean, when the executive actually control power, when they lead us, the point is what benefits we, the voters, is really public consumption, things that are made available to us. Theta T here is the productivity. The XT is chosen by the executive, also can be considered as resources. Okay, on the other hand, this is the expected utility of the executive. That's the public office holder, in this case, the executive. Okay, the extensive form of the model is really expressed in the article. I didn't express everything here because of time. Okay, now rent. There are two important things that are very important in this model. The rent. You have rent from power and rent from incomplete information. I mean, you're wondering what do you mean by power? In this case, the voters, the president, the executive rather, holds power. What is the benefit he gets from holding power? That's what this rent is really talking about. It's a holding power between two elections, sources of rent, even under full information. Generally, the voters do not know and do not have full information regarding how resources are being disbursed. However, there's an incentive usually in most cases for the public holder, by this case executive, to overexploit the use of the power they have. Since there is really no checks, assuming here now there is no checks, they can divert resources as they want. The voters are better off, the more far-sighted an incumbent is. If an incumbent public office holder is seeing into the future, saying that okay, in the next 2 years probably going to be a re-election, is going to most likely act better. They will not divert resources, knowing that there's an opportunity for him to still hold on to power the next time. Okay, these are some of the voting rules. I'm not going to discuss much about this, but these are the voting rules that were utilized in the presentation. The decision whether or not to appoint a policy holder is based on these three aforementioned rules. Okay, rent from incomplete information. Like I said earlier, like I said previously, most times the voters, as we are, do not have full information. It's what we are made to hear or what we are made to believe that we hold on to. So there's always an incentive, like I said before, for the executives to divert resources to their own benefit. What you have noticed is that voters are hurt by incomplete information, as the expected value of office is higher than under full information. We're assuming a situation where we voters now have full information about what's happening in the system. That way to be easier for us to exercise our checks on the public office holder. But in a case where we do not have full information, it's easy for the executive to manipulate. Okay. Now, the model is modified slightly further to add another agent known as Congress. That's what, now this is talking about separation of powers. You know, it's good to separate powers, but the question here is, how do you separate powers? How do you create the incentive, even in separation of powers? Because even when you separate powers, the essence of you separating powers now is such that there's a check and balance between those public office holders. But if the contract, as it were, is not properly designed, even the separation of power could become harmful to the voters. So, okay. Now there are two important things that are involved when you're talking about separation of powers and checks and balance. Two important things that we as economists are saying must be involved so that you check the excesses of public office holders. A conflict of interest between the executive and the legislature. In this situation now, you have the executive, the legislature. When there's a conflict of interest between them, I mean, there's a lesser tendency for them to collude to the detriment of the voters. In this case, their joint agreement decision making. I mean, at some point they have to jointly agree, because the point is to create dividend. I mean, the dividend of democracy or democratic rule for the populace. So even when there's a conflict of interest, I'm checking what you're doing, you're checking what I'm doing. The incentive for me to do things wrongly is minimal. But then it comes to a point where we all agree, such that the results, I mean, the decisions we make benefits the populace, and that's what we want as voters, to be better off. However, in a situation where there is a conflict of interest but not a simultaneous joint decision-making process, another problem is created, which just makes the voters worse off. This problem here is the common pool problem. You know, in this case, the government body can independently commit public expenditures without requiring approval. Let's, for instance, just imagine this country, for instance, there's nobody seeking approval for anything. Now I want to spend this money on this to build this road. I just go to the treasury and get money and do that. That's detrimental to the voters. In those places, the public policy holders could exploit, like I said again, to their own advantage. I'm going to also analyze here now to a two-stage budgeting process. Budgeting is also a very important point in governance, and where this model, this paper is explaining how effective separation of powers can be and checks and balance in governance using the example of a budgeting process. Now you have an agenda setter. Say for instance the executive sets the agenda. This is what we want to do in this dispensation of our government, right? That's what I want to do. But before I can act on this agenda that I have proposed, it has to go through, I have to present it to the House, and it has to go through approval. So when I make this presentation, it's either it is accepted or not. And usually there's also what we call a status quo. I didn't emphasize that here, but I'll just discuss it briefly. Say for instance the budget is proposed and then it's rejected. There's usually a provision constitutionally, the minimum amount that the government can actually spend. So the importance of this is that the voters do not suffer. Either way, there are some important projects that still need to be carried out in the society and the economy, as the case may be. Okay, the main point here is that the agenda setting power over each decision rests with different body, which ultimately favors voters. That's what is very important, as opposed to a decision where one voter or one of the public policy holder has total absolute power. He can do whatever he wants. There's no checks. That's detrimental to the voters, and we don't want that happening. Okay, information revelation. Okay, now we all know that this process of governance is a quite complex one. Like I said earlier on, starting this presentation, you realize that most times we the voters really don't know what's happening. We barely know what's happening in the political space. It's what we're made to believe that we take. So we're assuming now in this case that the agents announce as TIDA. We can observe what they are doing, and they announce their activities, they announce what they want to do. That benefits us as prior to, if we all know exactly what the public office holders are doing. they can keep track of them. General result is separation of powers benefit efficiency because it is revelation of information. I mean, if we pit the executive against the legislator, there's tendency for them to, competing against each other. That's the idea here. The idea is for them to compete against each other, so that unknown to both of them, they don't have there's a disincentive for them to lie, or there's an incentive for them to reveal exactly what they are doing, reveal proper information to us. Like that's I imagine a two-party system where you have, say for instance, the Republicans, Democrats. They have issues with it. They are always at each other's throat based on policies and all. But we find that it's positive for we the voters in that if the Democrats are coming up with a policy and we probably are not clear about, the Republicans, for instance, can also come up with a counter policy or try to explain the lapses of the policy that the Democrats are preferring, and that way we have a better information of what is going on in the economy. Okay, I'll speed up. I think I'll try to speed up here too. Now we try to also look at the parliamentary system. In the case of the presidential system, it's a direct process of election. The voters directly elect their leaders. But in this case, the parliamentary system is an indirect system. So in the real sense of it, the voters, in this case ourselves, we do not have direct control on the activities of the public policy holder as opposed to the executive, the presidential system where you vote your leaders directly. But in this case, it's indirectly controlled by, we are indirectly involved, not directly involved. Consequently, the evidence shows that the voting will get conditions on the voters' payoff and not on parliamentary decisions. So what this is saying now is, in the real sense of it, the voters are just better off. The voters are better off based on the benefits they get from governors, not necessarily on the decisions the parliament make, because they really don't know what the decisions the parliamentarians are making. What is important to the voters is the outcome of the decisions they make, and that's what we want. That's what's beneficial to us as voters. Okay, yeah. In this case too, it was talking about a tendency for collusion over executive reappointment. Okay, there's a tendency for collusion over reappointment. But the good thing about this paper is that there are no oblivious of the fact that collusion can occur. So what this section is saying is we have to create an incentive where the executive can actually divert a little resource, not so much, because if there's no incentive at all for the public policy holder, even he knows that, okay, say for instance next year I'm going to lose the election, he might as well divert as much resources as he can today, knowing that he's not going to get into power anyways in the next day. So the incentive here is to allow the executive or the public policy holder, as it were, divert a little, just a little, and while we still maintain what we want as voters. Okay, conclusion. In conclusion, we are focused on the joint capacity of elections and separation of powers to discipline the abuse of powers by the political leaders at the expense of ordinary citizens. One important thing that was left out in this presentation or in this article was the fact that the role the media plays in accountability. And it's proposed here that for subsequent research, we should add media to see the role the media plays in accountability, because the media is actually very important in public governance as well. Recent experience with corruption and lack of accountability in countries such as Belgium, Italy, and Japan has shown that the problem is also relevant in the developed world, contrary to popular belief that it happens just in the developing countries. It's more or less a global issue. It also happens in developed countries. Thank you. And
anyone has a question? Okay, thank you.